welcome back to Audio Pong. How you doing, Mark?
What's up, Zach?
What's up, man? How you been?
Dude, it's Halloween, man, or almost. It's October 29th, and it's a Saturday, and everybody's doing costume parties tonight, and I'm getting dressed up too, man. I wish I was doing it now.
Oh, that's right. You got a William Wallace outfit, right?
That's right, dude.
That's gonna be good.
Freedom!
For sure. Do you got the blue face paint too, or are you just
I
gonna wear the
did.
kilt?
No, of course, yeah.
All right.
I'm
So
actually
you're doing William Wallace, not just some kilt Scotsman.
no, dude. It's like legit. Like this costume is hundreds of dollars. Then
Oh
I've
my
had it.
goodness.
I had it handmade by a friend of ours. So
Jeez,
it's
is it wool or is it cotton?
it's both actually. There's
Okay.
two different shirts. Um, so if I want like the authentic wool shirt that they would have worn as like to keep warm or even as like an Under Armour,
Mm-hmm.
I have that, but I probably won't wear that. But that's not interesting, whatever. But yeah, I've got it's made from leather, it's made from wool, it's made from cotton. It's a real kilt. Everything's handmade.
Is the tartan the same or is this slightly different?
Is the what?
Tartan.
What's the tartan?
That's the kilt pattern. Well, I mean, it is the kilt itself, but when you
Oh,
talk about different tartans, it's the different patterns. So there's like the black watch, and there's other things. Every family has their own tartan and everything like that.
oh,
It's like you can say it's like a family crest kind of thing.
interesting. So like
Like,
when I go to Walmart and I see a bunch of plaid shirts and like pajama pants, that's really just them ripping off like ancient history, like the
I mean,
colors
I
and
don't know,
patterns
but it sounds like it,
of
yeah.
warriors. That's what their legacy
Warriors,
ends at Walmart.
families. Well,
Nice
I mean,
tartan, dude.
it's probably still pretty, big in Scotland and in Ireland. I'm sure they still, you see pictures of them in wee kilts, for like weddings and stuff. So a wee kilt is just like not okay. So there's two different types of kilts, right? There's the great kilt, which has like it's just like I don't even know how long it is. It is literally yards of fabric that
Yeah,
you
that's
wear.
what I got.
And then a wee kilt is literally just like the what you would call the skirt, right? And you just fold it over itself and then you wear a belt with it. But like the great kilt has like the sash that's a part of it, and you can turn that into like a hood, or you can use it as a blanket. You can do many different styles of wearing with it, so it's not just a sash, but it's like a vest almost. You can do all these different
That's
things.
what I got. I got a
Yeah,
gray kilt, and
that's awesome.
it's basically I'm the Mel Gibson version of William Wallace. Like I'll look just like him. Yes, just like Mel Gibson. Um, but yeah, I mean, I pretty much got the look, except I have some facial hair that I'm not going to get rid of because it takes literally months for me to grow back
Yeah, I feel that
anything.
my stuff grows real slow too.
Yeah,
So
so yeah, it should be fun, man. I don't know.
no, that sounds good. I always like Scotsman and all that kind of that theme has always been great.
Oh, you mean like the Scottish in general, like their culture?
Yeah. The culture, and then also just the aesthetics too.
I
Like
agree. My sister just came back from Scotland, and I wish I was there with her because I agree. I've always been attracted to the land, the people. They just seem really cool. So if anyone's Scottish, man, here's to you. Thanks for the tartans.
yeah. Now today we want to talk about stories, right? And we want to even make our own stories, and we're gonna use images to inspire those stories.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So this is kind of like there's different things that you can do to like test our artists, and this is one of them actually. So Walt Disney would have you listen to music, right? And then
Right.
you would draw whatever you would see from the music. And the music was usually like classical music, right? Um in eighth grade, I was actually given this task as well to like, a picture's worth 1,000 words.
Sure. It's
So
creative writing is what we're basically doing.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we were given the image of I forget what the guy's name is, or even the art itself, but it's a famous art piece where it's a guy in a suit with a bowler hat and I think it's a green apple in front of his face, right?
Mm.
So we had to make that into like a story. And so what I did is I made it like an alien spaceship was the apple actually, and it was a bunch of other things. It was just about perspective, and it was him actually like looking at it, and we were like, I don't know, it was weird. But and I was also in eighth grade, and I don't remember anything from my past, so I'm glad that's
You're glad
even
you have that
even
memory.
that enough is like it's not great detail,
It
but
brings
hey,
me
you
back.
kind of get the idea. So who wants to go first, you or I? Do you
All
want to
right.
show me an image first, or do
I've
you?
I've I've got an image. So I had several ideas for this, and I don't think they're all the same as far as like quality. But one idea was I could draw these images, but then I felt that wouldn't not only would that take a lot of time,
Mm.
but I also felt that that would sort of imply a story, right? So what I was trying to think of is like what is so neutral in terms of like the artist's vision that I could use for images, and then then it occurred to me AI art right now is awesome. There's a guy on YouTube who has a channel called Pix Imperfect, and he he made a video about a program, a Discord app called Mid Journey, and I recommend everyone to check it out. It's really cool. But basically, this is like the best app I've seen or program that can generate AI art based on your keyboard input, like the words you use, the phrasing you use. It even understands like um, the English language to a degree that it understands like meaning of how you say things. So it's pretty crazy. I think it's only in English, but I mean, how interesting would it be to have it, understand other languages, right? Because different dialects have different vernaculars and styles of speaking and all that,
Mm.
and writing for that matter. But a friend of mine, and I didn't ask permission, but he's going to find out one way or another. But his profile is public. He has amazing AI art, and I just really felt this would be a good opportunity not only to show off the AI art that he's created, or I guess you could say is the director of, because you don't really create it, right? At least not
I don't know. If you put the prompt in, that is your artistic medium, right? It's still you made it.
true, but you're really, yeah. I mean, the essence is the same, right? You're using the program to try and mold the image to get the image out that's in your head, which
Yeah.
is what I'm doing or you're doing when we use a pencil or a paintbrush. So I guess yeah, to that degree it is true, but the biggest difference I would say is that the paintbrush is thinking. So
Right.
but either way, it's generated some amazing images, and I've just got to use that as my source. So I guess I'll go first because I've got one for you.
All
So
right.
I'll hold it up for the camera, but then also going to put it on the video, and I won't say that again going forward. But here's the image, and I won't. It's not titled in or anything, so just take a look
All right.
and tell me what the story is behind that image.
Okay. So for those who aren't watching the video as well, I'm gonna describe this image. It's a African American man, short hair, some crazy hazel, not even hazel, they're like sunburst
Like
eyes.
Ember.
That's like like embers of like a fire like in his eye as the iris. Um Gold chains, looks more like beaded, and then he's wearing like an alligator like kind of jacket or something like that. And it's just like the picture from like the collarbone up to his head. Now, what kind of story could you write about this? Hmm. So I'm thinking either he's from a tribe where their people are like their eyes are like this, right? Or it's more of an awakening, right? So it's like this is something that only a select few members of the tribe can have. And it's like the maybe the warrior class or even the shamanic class, right? Okay.
You mentioned he had gold chains, but they're not like rapper gold chains. They look like
Right,
what do
they're
you
like
think
look
they're?
like beads.
Yeah.
They look like little like the bone beads that are like very small,
Mm.
like about the I would say the diameter of your pinky, the tip of your pinky, if not smaller. And just like a series of gold beads that are about that shape and size. All right, so this is sparking the idea of like a ooh, what if it's an accident? Okay, so I'm going. Everything I said is wrong. So he was a member of his tribe, right? And he was going through his like what do you call that? Manhood, like
Like ritual
yeah, like coming to man ceremony,
like yeah,
right?
right.
So he's doing that, and there was it an accident or was there a was it a bully? It was an accident. He did it to himself. So he's doing his whole thing, whatever ritual that may be for his tribe to become a man, right? And then he gets blasted in the eyes during his like his sacred dance or whatever that he's doing. and with embers from the fire and in the center, right? So and then this blinds him, and he becomes the seer for his tribe. So he can now see into the future, the past, and the present, and he has divine visions of he can give like advice, right? So this is his like character story almost, right? It's not necessarily a story for like a D&D campaign or something,
Kind of
but
sounds like
maybe more of
Heimdall,
a character. Well, he looks kind of like Heimdall
like a
with the
young
eyes.
Heimdall.
Yeah, yeah. So he can see into the future and he can see into the past and he can give great counsel on both. He gets divine visions. And I would say like for his character, he would definitely get it from his whatever his tribe's deity is. So like say like his tribe has like a protector god, right? And um this is his like steward, his like emissary to the world that he has become through this ritual. It's kind of what I'm getting from this image. What do you think?
What I think? Oh, I don't know. See, I'm primed. You know, my mind is primed because you gave your story. So, in a weird way, I have to make a decision if I want to agree with some of the things you said, like him being tribal or anything like that, or dump that and completely ignore that line of thinking so that I can have something totally unique. You know what I'm saying? It almost
Mm.
kind of it doesn't ruin it, but
Well, I didn't know if you had
you
one that
brought it
made
into the world. Like I actually hadn't thought at all.
anything. Okay.
Yeah.
See, I chose images that made me think.
Mm.
So,
No, yeah, I wanted to be totally blind. I didn't want to. In fact, I don't know what images I'm going to use with you. I just have like an album.
oh,
So
okay.
and I'm
I
going to
see.
choose from that album as we go.
Yeah.
So and I'm just going to look at something that catches my eye. I'm going to save it, close it, and then show it to you
Hmm.
when it's your turn. When you raise your hand.
I think the just to make everything about the character mean something, I think we should make the beads in the jacket. Maybe the jacket's not an alligator skin, but it looks like that to me. Maybe those circlets or something else. Do you want to add for the beads?
Does he have a name?
I mean, I don't know any. If I would have to do research, but I would want it to be like some kind of Afrikaans name. I don't know what tribe I would go with, but like something I don't know. I'm getting very like Z sound, like like Shaka Zula or something like
Well, it's
that.
funny you say that because I think the coolest sounding names for like black guys are with J's or with Z, and of course there's a rapper named Jay Z.
Oh,
So
that's
I don't know
funny.
if that's why or part of it, but so like for me, like the first name at the top of my head is just like Jamiroquai or something like that, like
Jamiroquai.
something that sounds almost like Geronimo, like it's a
Mm,
tribal, but it's a strong warrior sounding name. Jamiroquai sounds like that to me.
I like it. I like it. It's a good name. So I think the beads could represent. I think it has to do something with his deity, right? So I would say either prayer beads, but I think we can make it more interesting. There's prayer beads because there's so much.
I find so when I used to do creative writing all the time and some creative drawing, but most of it was the creative drawing was mostly in class. But on my own, I did a lot of creative writing. So what I found is that I just go with like the first thought. Like I don't try to structure thoughts. So like just whatever comes to mind, even if it's like an elephant. Like oh, it's an elephant. Okay, it relates somehow to elephants. You know what I mean? Like these are the uh,
Oh,
each step that an elephant
what
takes in
I
its
like
life,
about
and
it.
so
Okay, so for the beads, it could be each bead is a representation of a person that he's helped in his life,
and they add a bead every time
and
he helps someone.
like that's his payment, right? Is a gold bead. So each time that he helps someone and gives them advice and things like that, he gets this gold bead.
So yeah, so then if he's
So
like a if someone sees a seer or a maester with a lot of gold beads and
you know he's trusted, right?
he's answered a lot of questions,
He's
whether they're
answered
wrong or right, he's helped a lot of people.
right. Yeah, so it's like it's like a sign of his validity, his credentials, right?
Mm,
And then
I like that. That's cool.
the jacket
We should do
we're
that.
gonna keep that with that it's alligator and it's one that he killed when he was like 14, 15 with his father, right? It was his first hunting trip, and they were actually hunting gazelle, right? They were hunting like like a regular herbivore, something like that, some kind of peaceful animal, and that they were gonna have for meat. But the alligator came up and tried to attack the gazelle that they were going for. So they killed the alligator instead because it was like then coming after them. So it was like out of self defense, and then they got 2 for 1 deal.
I think you should finish. We should finish each story for as a fun thing to do with like a title. So, what was the title of your story of this of Jamiroquai, the blind wise alligator killer?
That's it. That is the whole title. Jamaica, the wise blind alligator killer with beads of helpfulness.
With beads of help. Yeah, that sounds like a D&D item.
Beads of helpfulness.
Yeah, like
That's
that's
such
how
a
shit was named in like
yeah.
D&D in the 80s and stuff. It's like now everything's like, Belphegor, the demon slayer sword or some bullshit like that. But it used to just be like, beads of helpfulness, prayer plus one,
But if I had beads of helpfulness, I would at least name it some that, but in another language, right? Like that's what I do.
just to be edgy.
Not edgy, but fantasy. You know, because you're in a fantasy world, you don't want beads of helpfulness. Like that sounds so lame. At least like give them like go to a different language that sounds nonsensical to your English
See, I don't
ears.
agree with that. Like I adding ambiguity just for ambiguity's sake,
It's not about
that kind of bugs me.
ambiguity. It's about having a living world and having like these items are not named for their necessarily like it just makes it sound more
Technically it is. It's
fantasy.
just in a different language that
It
the player doesn't
is,
understand.
but that's like a lazy way to do it, you know. But it makes it sound more fantasy. It makes it sound more, I don't know. It makes
Hmm.
it sound more alive than just beads of helpfulness. Like that sounds lame.
I guess I'm fine with
With
beads of
lame, you're
helpfulness.
fine with
It's only
lame.
lame to you. Like I like to know that I like to be able to read things like there's certain games like when I play an RPG. Oh man, when the fantasy just gets too much, like even like Lord of the Rings kind of bugs me with this sometimes, but it's not bad about it. But like when it gets too like I speak English and read English, and sometimes you'll be playing a game and they'll use the English language, but they'll make so many weird names. They'll try to create like a to try and make the world feel like it's separate world. They'll make up all these weird names and names of places and people and things, and it's in the lore, and you just at some point feel like you understand nothing because you don't understand. You can't say the names of the NPCs. You can't say the names of the characters. You can't say the names of the places because they're just like, flip flop in the form, la la. It's just like, la, 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 la. It's all these tongue twisters and everything just becomes so ambiguous. It's like, it's kind of nice sometimes to just find something that's like sort of cutting. It's like, yes, I have my sword of cutting, sock for short.
Yeah, I get it. I get that you want just to be told, but I don't know. I like the idea of everything has.
I think sometimes it's nice, like especially if by setting, right? If you go to like if you're playing characters going back to D&D, if you're like playing characters in D&D or something and they go to like a foreign land, then that would make a lot of sense. Like if they're in a Japanese setting or something, everybody speaks kind of like an Asian dialect or whatever.
Mm,
And yeah, then they would find, a Shintao or something like that. Like that would make sense to me.
all right, so I came up with the title then.
All right.
So his story is called "Of Fear and Hope."
Of fear and hope.
Yeah.
Ding. We'll have a sound effect there. Number one, of fear and hope.
All right. So I got one for you now, Marco.
Okay. Now
I guess mine's a lot smaller, but this is it. Good luck seeing that. So we'll put the images up, of course. But here you go, Marco.
all right, I gotta see this now. Now this looks like AI art. Oh no, it's not. Okay, although it does kind of look like AI art to me. So this right away makes me think of night terrors and the thoughts that even like when I try to fall asleep at night, I feel like I'm always like at my back. There's always like a shadow or a group of shadows, and
Hmm.
and that is the image my mind draws. But they're just really thoughts
Well,
and
you want to describe the image real quick?
pressures. Yeah, so the image is looks like a young beautiful woman in like a silk silvery negligee resting peacefully on her pillow, and what looks like you would think are rose petals floating down to her are actually the flakes coming off this demonic looking shadow beast who's made mostly of like tendrils of black and obsidian, but is inside fueled by some otherworldly red light power of probably evil origin, or who knows, maybe this is a peaceful creature, maybe this is an angel, but they just don't look pretty.
Mm,
You
I
never
like
know.
that.
I mean, how could you recognize? That's another thing that like I've thought about before, like in a lot of storylines, especially like even stories from the Bible, not to get into religion or anything, but
Mm,
um, why would you just trust? Like I to me the most untrustworthy people when just by default are beautiful people. So that's why I don't usually like lose my shit when I see a really beautiful woman, like even if like a supermodel walks in front of me or something. Sure, sometimes my jaw drops, right?
right.
But for the most part, I'm not intimidated by beauty because I'm really apprehensive of it. Because to me, that is like the perfect weapon to manipulate with. So if somebody wants to hurt me, it's much easier for them to get to me, to get past my defenses if they're beautiful. And it's weird because it doesn't matter if they're male or female. It changes, the reasoning changes. So
Right.
like if it's female, then I'm like attracted to her, right? But if it's a guy, then I'm like intimidated, especially if it's like, bigger than me and muscular or, whatever, handsome, successes, what I'm saying? He's got like material things or whatever. So I don't trust beauty. And that's why I think I'm usually I'm usually pretty open minded about how I judge others, right? And I've even been told many times, like I had a friend once, Frank was his name. He told me, he's like, what sucks? He's like, you know what your problem is, Mark? I'm like, what? He's like, you get along with everybody. I'm like, yeah, I know it sucks, but I kind of do. Like I've been invited to like every kind of group of people you can think of, and been able to like have a good time with them because
Right.
I just don't judge them immediately. I let them fuck up first, basically, is what it comes down to. So I
Yeah.
never judge a book by its cover for the most part.
So unless they're beautiful.
I mean, no, I mean,
I
like,
know what you mean. You just puts you on edge. It's like, all right, I got to be aware of my own fault that I may fall into their guile and be able to like be fooled easier because of their beauty.
that's part of it. I guess I'm also I guess also what I'm saying is I feel comfortable around ugly people. But I mean, whatever, that's the way
Yeah,
it
it's less
is. That's
competition. Yeah.
I didn't bite his brain, right? Don't get mad at me. So, yeah, but going back to this image, it makes me think of those things. And so this creature is descending on this young lady while she sleeps. It makes me think of the weird neutral to like haunting thoughts that I have when I try to fall asleep at night, which just comes from a life of, I don't know, craziness, adventure, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to try to sound like I'm interesting, but that's just what it comes from. It's like all the things like weird. I get visited by weird thoughts. Like Charlie Sheen said it best in an interview back during like his era of crazy when he was like on every TV station, and he called it shame shivers. I think it's actually he was on Graham Norton's show when he coined this term. I think he coined it, but when I heard that term, I almost like jumped at the TV because I was like, "Oh my god, thank you! Someone has a term for what this is," and that's what it
That's so
is.
funny.
Shame shivers are like these. It's like you get visited. I get visited at night when I'm trying to fall asleep, and I'll literally jerk sometimes, like while laying down. Like it's just like a weird spike of thought that physically moves me, and it's sometimes it's a feeling of shame or regret or awkwardness, or sometimes it's just funny, or it's fear. But it's literally memories of shit I've done or experienced in my life that for whatever reason visit me when I'm trying to sleep. And I feel like that's what these thoughts are trying to do to this young lady that's sleeping on her bed or whatever it is, this like sheik's tent that she might be in. Um, and even though the thing looks vicious and has sharp teeth, I don't know. Like it doesn't strike me immediately as a danger because it doesn't. It looks like it's moving slowly, right? It's
Hmm.
descending so slowly. So it could if it wanted to eat her, it could, right? She's sleeping. It could ambush her at any moment. It doesn't need to inspect her the way it is, right? The only I'd say the most concerning thing is that it has sort of like a ribbon like tongue that's coming out from its center that descends into like her temple. So maybe it is already attacking her, like in some way, like it's in her mind,
Hmm.
like it's a nightmare demon or something like that. But the weird thing about nightmares is that they don't increase your fear in life. They increase your confidence, right? They make you braver because you
Okay.
survive them. You always wake up
Yeah,
from a
yeah. I
nightmare,
mean, that's true.
you
Unless,
know?
I mean, do you count surviving it even if you die in the dream?
Yeah, I mean, because you
Okay.
didn't die, you wake up.
I don't
I mean,
know.
even
It
if
feels
this is
pretty.
all
It felt pretty real before.
well, even if
Say.
this is all simulation, even that is like to me, that's like a reward. If your imagination is so powerful that it can simulate what you think the
Is
feeling of
death.
death is, and then you survive it, how does that not make you stronger?
I can face death now. Yeah,
You can
I
face
mean, you're
death.
right.
I mean, that's the way
I've
I
died a
look at
few
it.
times in my dreams, so that's not the old adage. If you die in your dreams, you die in real life. Like that's like an old saying.
Well, I think that's like Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, but
Nightmare
I
on Elm
mean,
Street
even in
made that
like
popular.
Sigmund Freud would talk about it too in dream analysis, right? And he would talk about like if you die in your dreams, you could kill you in real life.
Yeah.
It's like, but like I've woken up in a panic before because of that, but I've never like never died from it.
I've had friends tell me, like my friend Matt says he dies all the time in his dreams,
All the
which is
time.
weird to me. And he says
Wow.
every time he dies, he just wakes up. And
Yeah.
that's weird because usually I don't die in my dreams. I can't remember ever dying. I usually fight back somehow. I stop it from happening.
I
Yeah.
fight back, but then I get overtaken usually.
Hmm.
It's like a swarm or of whatever it is I'm fighting, just overtakes me. Like I'm just
Interesting.
outnumbered. Maybe that says more about me.
I don't know. I really don't think there's people that pretend to understand dreams, and maybe sometimes like a clock, they're accidentally correct.
Well, I think that when it comes to dream analysis, it has to be person to person based. Like it's like symbolism in your dream can't mean the same thing for everyone. Like that doesn't make sense because
Well, not only that, but it probably
everyone views the world differently.
right.
So like there's no, and especially now where we don't have consistent symbolism in our culture, right? We don't have anything that's like we don't have kennings really. We don't talk about the whale road talking about the sea, so we don't have really um any real symbolism, like except for a clock maybe representing time, but
I
even then.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I do agree. I would add that I think we have a flood of too much new symbolism, and nothing is sticking.
Yeah.
So there's like trends, cults are starting and ending. Religions are starting and ending. Perceptions, ideologies are starting and ending. The same way trends used to. At the same like breakneck speed, and that's because of the travel. I think the main reason for that is the speed of information that we have access to,
Yeah.
with our lives. So yeah, I would call this, I'm going to rip off, I think it was Shakespeare, and also a Robin Williams movie, but I'm going to call this, or I'll adjust it. I was going to say I'll call it What Dreams May Come, but I'll say What Nightmares May Come. So
There we go.
this is
There we
what
go.
nightmares may come.
So I was thinking something very similar from this image. It made me think of like some kind of dream eater, right? Like it's not just nightmare eating or giving. It's actually feeding on her like her dreams, and it's not just this one. There's
So it is like hungry, then it is like a
yeah.
beast of
So it's
some
some
sort.
kind of yeah. It's like a and it's not even on the same plane. It's like it's immaterial, so it's more of a shadow based kind of thing. Um,
So it's metaphysical. It's not
right.
totally in the world.
Yeah, it's like it's on another plane. Maybe it's on the same plane as dreams exists, right? Maybe you could do that. Uh but yeah, I was thinking like maybe there's like a whole like, roaming a band of these like maybe there's like five of them that just kind of go to village and they just eat.
Village to village.
Yeah, so
It's
like
another D&D story.
I mean
Save the
that's kind of the
village.
context of what I think of it of most stories and is either D&D or some kind of fantasy.
That's interesting. That's an interesting thing maybe to talk about too. Is like where is the bar for your storytelling? What does your brain always reference?
Mythology.
Yeah.
I'm constantly thinking about mythology and then just the time before guns pretty much.
Mm.
That's when I kind of like think about for stories. Even like horror stories. Like I'm not a when I'm like listening to like a scary story, like if it's in the modern time, I'm like I don't care. Like this is boring. But if it's like a story about like helplessness like not what was written on the post was Croatoa, but I can't Jamestown, right? Is that the no? That's a different thing. What is Croatoa from? Do you know?
I don't. I thought you said Krakatoa, which is a
No, no, no,
volcano.
no. Croatoa. That's the colony that was formed in the U.S. before it was the U.S. Right, and then like people leave for to get resupplies and stuff to go back to England, and when they come back the village is abandoned and there's no one there and there's no sign of why they left, and the only thing written down the only thing left that was like that was like the mystery, right, was it on a I think it was either a wooden post or on a tree in like the center of town or something like that. It was written Croatoa, but no one knows what that means.
Ooh, that's creepy. That's a
Yeah,
good Halloween story.
yeah. So I really like stories like that where it's like isolation, and you and the mystery is like you or not the mystery, but like the real scary part is that there's no one that's coming to help you. Like
Mm.
you're on your own. And I really like those kind of stories. And when it's in the modern time, it's kind of hard to do because you always have your phone, right? So
Not only that, but like, yeah,
you're
like
always
you have
only
to
a phone
isolate
call
the
away.
characters somehow.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't know. Some writers, some storytellers do it interestingly. I mean, that's one thing I really like about sort of the dystopian, um, like cyberpunk kind of future. You know, like Blade Runner, is that it depicts a future where there is so much technology that it's easy to isolate, and that makes sense to me because I feel like we're doing that now. Like it's actually really easy to isolate yourself using technology, and really when you think about it, how quickly can you get help depending on where you are or what you're doing? You know, it's not the movies make it seem instant, but as any of us have been in
Oh my
emergencies in
goodness.
life, we know what it's
Yeah.
like waiting for help.
It takes forever.
Yeah,
It literally feels like an eternity. Like
yeah.
5 seconds is a minute, right? And then 5 minutes is an hour. It's like, this is ridiculous. Or whatever the math is. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's like one of the worst experiences I remember was when my grandfather had a heart attack and he was dying from it. And you know, we lived far out in the woods or in the sticks, let's say, in the country, and it took them over half an hour just to get the ambulance there. That's how far we were from the
A
hospital.
half an hour to
Yeah,
yeah,
so I mean, if
jeez.
you don't know how to help someone or can't, that's it, man.
And you're
You
just
know,
watching them.
you're
It's
just
like, what do
watching
I
them
do?
die. Yeah. So,
Oh man,
well, that's just
that's scary.
yeah, that's why, you know, I think that you can if you really think about it, it's maybe easier. You can be clever about telling a story that isolates the character properly. Maybe not all the time, but at the times that it matters to, you know, portraying
But
a
that's
certain
why I
level of
like
stress.
cabin in the woods stories, right?
Oh
Like
yeah.
where they're just like they're in a dead zone, like right, there's no way to call out. The ham radio's busted or whatever, right? So
Yeah. The premise already tells you things are not good. They shouldn't even be there. You kind of feel like a father figure, like I told you so. Like, what are you doing out here,
what are you
idiots?
doing in the dark forest? I told you
Yeah,
not to go in there. That's where the wolves will eat you,
yeah.
and then pretend to be your grandma.
Okay, so I got another image for you.
All right, what do we got here?
Um, this is another like, of course, like I said, these are all AI, and I'm gonna put these images up. But here's, I don't know. That's pointless to hold it up. I'll just describe it, or you can describe
Yeah,
it.
I'll
Let's see
describe it.
what you think about that.
Ooh, I like this one. Okay, so we have my goodness. Okay, we got circles within circles going on. It's very like macabre looking. So it's a lot of flesh and red colors going happening. We have a circle of like different what look like heads, but they're like mangled and they're deformed, maybe dried out and things like that. Like they're half rotten. Others are like things are like in the process of being dissected, maybe. Um, then you have like they're all their these this circle of those things kind of like form into another circle where she looks like organs almost, just kind of or maybe dead roses even. It's hard to tell. And then in the center of that, it all comes together to make like this like humanoid looking figure with like no face, red robes, and long extended fingers almost. All right, story. All right, so this makes me think of this guy. He's a tinkerer, right? Like he's making things. These are either stuffed or they're like what are they like a flesh golem almost, right? From D&D. So he's making flesh golems, right? And he's making like different kind of like he's trying to combine different dead animals and different dead body parts to make different kinds of creatures and making the optimal um maybe the optimal like slave or just beast of burden kind of thing, and maybe even specializes in different like tasks. Some are just for cleaning, right? Like and others are for going out and gathering new specimens. And this is his motivations are just to create out of life out of death. And the villagers, they're not happy about this guy. They don't like him. They start seeing some creepy things at night. So like you like just glimpses of like by quadrupedal like things like skirting across, but they're like deformed and they're not quite and that they don't look human and they don't look animalistic. They just look wrong and you can't tell what they look like because it's always dark when they come out.
When we all get our own Matrix world in the future, I'm not visiting any of your villages,
Wow,
like ever.
it'd be fun.
No, your village people don't. They got it rough.
Yes.
Their lives are not
Yeah, that's
easy.
why you're the hero, Marco. So what I think it would be better instead of like for like if you were to make this a D&D campaign, right? Instead of like the heroes coming from out of town, like they're from the town, right? So they grew up in this space and
And
they're
they're like coming back home.
no. They're already there and they're having enough of this. They finally see one. They're getting a little more ambitious and taking living creatures and even babies, right? From their cradles. Um and then he'll like use them and cut them up and he doesn't use anesthesia or anything. He's just a vicious SOB, you know. Um that's what I'm feeling from this guy. I like that his red robes again. They look like some kind of like maybe he's I don't want to say because they don't look like they're religious in any way, but I feel like there's some kind of like occult happening. Maybe it's just demonic, right? Maybe he's talking to some kind of fiend who's like inking these ideas into his mind. Like he had a pure goal at first, but then now it's from speaking with this demon or devil, it's starting to corrupt him, and he's getting. That's why he's starting to take living creatures and not just the dead anymore, right? He's starting to take. Yeah, so that's kind of like what I'm feeling from this. I really, damn, that those top ones are scary as all get out.
It's kind of like a wheel of mangled undead heads, and
And
like
yeah,
the
and
spokes of a wheel, and in the center is this membrane that presents a full figured creature.
yeah, and not even all of them are heads, right? Like there's mangled flesh. That's what it looks like. It's so cool. I love this one. But yeah, that's kind of what it sparks in my head. Is this guy is he's creating undead, um, golem types. So they're not really undead.
Zombie
It's more
slaves.
yeah, but it's not like undead because these things aren't living. Though it's more mechanical. It's more like he's breathing maybe a different kind of life, not really undeath. Although otherwise it'd be green if it
Well,
was
it's
undead.
almost like a synonym for robot slaves. I mean, if you're
Yeah.
making robots out of parts of the earth instead of parts of people, like obviously there's ethics involved with that, but I think it almost looks like somebody's really fucked up like display of Halloween masks, like how they're gonna choose one. What would you call
Guess
this?
I'm trying
What
to
would you
think.
title this?
I want the word flesh in there.
Flesh wheel. You think too hard. Let it come to you.
No, I'm trying to think of. I don't know the title, "The Flesh of Our Sins."
The flesh of our sins.
I don't know if that's spiking out of my head for some reason.
I don't know. I like it. I mean,
Even though the villagers didn't necessarily do anything wrong.
those poor villagers, man. They're always getting boned.
Yeah, I like horror.
Well, horror is, I think it's one of the more interesting genres of like storytelling, right? And it's funny. It's funny too, because like defining horror for a lot of people is kind of like a controversial topic. Like, what do you consider horror, right? Like, even I have my own um, opinions on that. For me, like for a horror movie to truly be a horror movie, it can't have a good ending, right? It's got to have at least a twist, or
Mm.
things do have to end badly for the
That
characters.
is my favorite types of endings is where everything like the no one gets a happy ending. Like the bad thing
Yeah.
happens to everyone. Everyone dies or everyone gets, trapped or things like that. I'm like, yes, like it's like real life, Sometimes not everyone makes it. It's like life
I think
sucks.
my favorite are like the way a lot of horror movies ended in the 80s where okay, some of the people survive and that's technically the happy ending, but then there's a twist like the monster, like Critters, the monsters laid eggs in the barn. And so it's not over, it's coming, it's going to happen again, like that kind of shit.
Mm.
But not always, but that's generally my favorite because I do like to see some success, but there are stories that I just really liked where there was no success, like The Witch. That was a really good, creepy modern horror movie where there were moments where I thought things were going to turn around, and no, it doubled down. It got worse, and then it happened again. It fooled me again. Oh, can we get some reprieve for these poor people? No, it doubled down again. It's like, oh my god,
That's kind of cool.
things are just getting
Well,
worse and worse.
well, 10,001 Maniacs is kind of cool with that because then
Mm,
they think they're getting away and they're on the open road and everything, and then there's like they're on a motorcycle, right? And there's like a wire that they don't see, and it cuts their heads off as they drive through it.
yeah.
Um,
That
uh,
Rob Zombie kinda did that with House of a Thousand Corpses. I like that
mm,
ending a lot. That's, like, a really good bad ending, in my opinion. If for I guess I won't spoil it if anyone hasn't seen it, but that's a really good Halloween October movie to watch is House of a Thousand Corpses.
yeah, that's good stuff. All right, I got another one for you, Marco.
Alright, let's see what we
Here
got
you
here.
are.
Alright, first to describe this image. Hmm, this is really just a Halloween episode. Everything's gonna be scary, everything that we show each
I
other.
mean, it is. I mean, that's every day's Halloween in my life.
So this is an image, and it's in black and white, and it's in a forest at night, and it looks like the kind of forest you might see in North America. You know, you've got these pines or spruces with a tall bare trunk before the branch, like the longer branches and the needles or the leaves start. So those kinds of forests are cool because you can see clearly through them when you're walking through them. There's not usually a lot of foliage on the ground as well for the
Mm.
most part. So they're not real thick forests. But they're also kind of creepy for that because it's like you feel like anything could be looking at you from a great distance. And those are also, by the way, the easiest to get lost in. Having spoken, so I'm speaking from experience here. Like
Well,
out of all the types of forests that I've had to walk through,
really.
when I was a surveyor, the ones that are the most that are like that had the least amount of like let's say like recognizable things, those are the ones that are easy to get lost in because once you start turning you don't have any bearing anymore, right? That's why you have to like pay attention to the lay of the land usually helped me, and if that was too flat then I would pay attention to like the sky, or just fucking have a compass. But so it makes me think of that. But
Yeah.
this is at night, and there's a sort of backlit glow to this part of the forest, which is probably like maybe moonlight. That's what it makes me think of. But in the foreground are these four characters that look kind of like a scary stories to tell in the dark drawing. Like they're very stringy and wet and draped in like goo and maybe plant and vines and things like that. And they have these weird each one has a weird headdress that's built out of like animal parts, like an antler or a deer. And one looks like a witch, and the other, and then two look kind of like different versions of like a demon or a deer head or a goat head. And then the most interesting one is the fourth character who's kind of crippled in the center, but maybe looks like she is coming to life, like it's being born or it's being awakened, and the other three are sort of just witnessing it. And it makes me think of a movie that I really liked called, I think it was called The Ritual, and it's about these guys who go hiking in like I think the German forest or something like that, and they discover this tribe that praises and sacrifices people to this god of the forest, and then they find out the damn thing is real, and it looks so cool. Like it's like this behemoth of like deer parts and other
Oh, that's
things.
pretty cool. It's called
Yeah,
Ritual.
I think it's called The Ritual. I think you'd really
All
like it. It was a
right,
really good like independent like horror film, and it makes me think of that because it's very similar to like the imagery in that movie. And these types of things, like this, all makes me think of like old world, like pagan cult, like what people did in ancient times to just make the night interesting, like their free time
Make it
interesting.
interesting, not just
Yeah,
like to protect you from whatever animals are maybe out there looking to eat you, but just to make it interesting.
no, yeah, I mean, you can say, we there's spells or rituals or prayers that you can do to summon protection, right? There, every culture in
Hmm.
history, even modern day, has those kinds of like beliefs, right? But all that really does is build your confidence to walk around at night when in a time where especially with ancient man, where you really were we were still on the menu, bears and wolves and lions, oh my, they would come and they would attack you and
Yeah, yeah.
kill you and eat you, especially if you seemed like an easy target. um and doing things at night is always so the reason why I love doing things at night is because it makes you feel kind of like suspicious, right? It has that
It
little,
makes you.
yeah, like you
No,
kind
I
of
know what you're saying though.
like almost like you're creeping on yourself a little bit, and that's kind of fun. I mean, it gives a naughty feeling, and that's kind of fun, not to like actually do ill. I would say
Right.
like my version of like creepiness and naughtiness is like maybe Danny Elfman or like Nightmare Before Christmas. Like you know that's my job, but I'm not mean. You know what I mean? Like I'm scary, but I'm not mean, kind of thing. So um
I just like working doing things in the night because there's no one else around, so you don't get bothered.
yeah, just be left alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I feel that way with just about any job. I prefer to because I'm self motivated when I know what my work is. I not only do I get it done properly, I get it done faster. Like you know what I mean. If my kryptonite is someone who like micromanages me or attempts to, because I'll get fired. I guarantee you, I'm gonna get fired. I'm gonna lose that job somehow because I'm never gonna put up with that. I mean, I will for a while, right? But it's just a ticking time bomb. But I actually I just want to title this one "The Ritual" because that's what really
The
makes me think
ritual.
of. Is
All
yeah,
right. So what's the story behind it?
I mean that I
That
don't always have
there.
a story. Sometimes I just like to talk about what it makes me think about,
Okay.
you know.
That's fine.
And that's what it makes me think about. It makes me think of like pagan religions and people dressing up, in scary things and doing weird, awkward
Oh,
shit
so you
in the
think
middle of the night.
to you those are just regular people?
Yeah, I don't think I
Okay,
think
dressed up doing some kind of ritual in
yeah,
the
they
forest.
just look like they're wearing, ye old medieval ghillie suits, and they got like a witch hat and an antler head, and got a goat head going, and then they just, someone the fourth person went into the woods before the other three showed up and covered himself in moss and other weird shit, and she was naked and now is slowly rising from the ground. I mean, if you were tripping, which I'm sure a lot of times these motherfuckers were. Imagine like you agree to like trip with your buddies and then you all get dressed up in some weird shit, and it's all earthy things. It's like things from the ground and the
Yeah.
trees and around you that that you made or whatever. And then one of your friends decides to get naked and then cover themselves with the ground in the middle of the forest, and then you discover them. You would totally that would be a movie scene in your brain. I know if I
Oh
was tripping,
yeah,
that's
for
what I would
sure.
happen for me. So
No, that would
I mean,
definitely spark your mind to fall down some kind of trail.
dude, one of my favorite memories from tripping was I was standing on the second floor of a house in this like Airbnb that we rented, and I looked out beautiful window, and the moon. I could see the moon and the light. Like it was just so picturesque, and the moonlight was hitting me, and it felt like a spotlight. Like the moon was like looking at me, and I went into a dark room, and I called my friend's name, and he wasn't there, and I thought he was then gone. So then my brain said, no, he's not gone. He's gone. He's dead. And then I had this whole like Moonlight Sonata opera that I like or that I like played out and could hear the music of, and I sang. I don't know if I actually sang, but I wish I could remember the words because I know I spoke words, and I didn't stumble on them. Like they just came out of me. And I was up there for like 30 minutes doing this, and then my buddy he was sober. He gets up and he's like, "Hey, Marco, what are you doing?" I was like, "You son of a bitch! I thought you were dead. I just had a funeral for you." So those are the kinds of stories that my brain generates, right? Like I'm just always creative. I'm always in a creative writing mode, except that if I'm tripping, it's way better. So yeah,
It's a ritual.
this is why you know what this is. These are people from one of your villages, and they're just so stressed out from the constant evil attacking them that they're literally trying anything at this point. So
So
they're
so they're
dressing up at
becoming evil
night.
to ward
No,
off
they're not
evil.
evil. They look ugly because of the way they're dressed, but that doesn't mean they're evil.
Right.
They're trying to do whatever they can to ward off evil.
You're right. Yeah.
So they're going out in the woods in the
Well,
middle
that's
of the
actually
night
a thing
and having
is
casting spells and having
to
rituals.
scare off the evil, right? It's just by doing different things like that.
So that's the village ritual.
Yeah, it made me think of like these are creatures from the forest, right? Like they are more spirits, right, of the forest. And you know, they're coming back to claim their land and the over encroachment of human development and things like that. So they're formed from the ground and they're formed from the trees and the animals and things like that. That's pretty much what I was thinking. So I mean, you had the same kind of elements and themes in your head as I did.
Well, that one, I mean, like, especially with an image like that, so familiar things help the brain, you know, imagine a story, right? Like virtualize um, consequence, right? So, like, what I mean by that is, if I show you an image of a man dressed in a tuxedo and he's smiling and he's standing in like a beautiful wooden archway and there's petals flying through the air, you might think, well, he's probably at a wedding, he looks like a groom, like that
Hmm.
kind of thing. So that's the brain does that on purpose to help us immediately understand something
Right.
because the brain doesn't like confusion.
Right. It's all about pattern recognition and making assumptions to help you navigate reality quicker.
Yeah, which
That way
I'm really grateful
you're not
for.
spending time dwelling on every single detail. It just kind of looks at everything. It's like, okay, that's must what be going on. We're just gonna assume that's what's going on until we get more information.
Yeah, and especially like with my brain, like my brain already likes to dwell on detail and and really just take things too far and like really overthink things, because sometimes, I mean, that's essentially what imagination is just spending time with yourself overthinking an idea, right? Constantly building on it, constantly adding leaves to that tree of, whatever your mind is trying to show you.
Yeah,
So
but it's not always. I mean, I feel like it's mostly there to protect you as well, because I mean, recently I had an experience where a bunch of different details. Like there was this. I was at a courthouse, right, and I was summoned for jury duty,
mm,
and there's this kid that walked into the elevator with us, and it's fucking packed like sardines in that thing, right? And he walks in, he scoots behind me. He's got a mask on, like a face mask, right? Just like
mm.
your doctor's mask, whatever, right? Then he's got his hood up and he's got his head like pointed down and he's got something in his hand. I couldn't see what was in his hand, and it's like a hammer grip, So I'm like, he's gonna fucking stab me.
So you was
Like
like grabbing something like really tight.
yeah, it could have been just his papers or what, I don't know,
He was
but
probably just nervous too for whatever he was there for.
yeah, but he made me nervous. I'm like,
Yeah.
this motherfucker's about to stab me because he was right behind me, next to me, like right at my kidney. Like this dude is about to just start practicing the stabbing, you know. But oh man, it was that was the most stressful elevator ride I've ever been on.
That's really interesting that like it put you on your guess. I mean, maybe something really was wrong if it put you on your guard
Well, I put
that
my
quickly.
arm in front of my side where he would be able to stab me. So I'm like,
Like you tucked your arm in just in
yeah,
case.
I put it there. I'm like, this motherfucker, if he tries something, at least he's gonna get my arm and not my kidney. He's not gonna drop me right away. I'm at least gonna get him. Like, mm, I was
I'm only laughing because I've been in moments like that myself where like for whatever reason I was just so hyped up and like ready to fight for my life and nothing was happening. Nothing happened. Like something just triggered my brain
well,
to
I'm already like uncomfortable with close
with
proximity.
closeness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I don't, especially when it's other men. Like that bugs me. When you're
Sure.
in that kiss me kill me range, it's
Yeah.
like something's about to happen. Like, and I don't like it. It's like I don't know what's gonna happen, but it ain't good.
No, I agree. I don't it makes me uncomfortable as well, you know. Like it's not doesn't feel like I don't know what would you say, like natural, maybe is the wrong word, but like like you said, the kiss me kill me range, you could be you're under threat somehow,
Yeah,
right?
if you're in arm's length, like
Yeah.
that's enough space for you to just do something without me having time to react. Like I can't back away from that. I can't block it unless I'm watching you and we already know we're in, that state. Like there's nothing for me to do.
Yeah, if
It's
only
like
every street fight started like it did in the movies. Okay, ready? Go. What do you think about
yeah,
this
right.
image?
Oh, this reminds me of one of my favorite artists. I can't think of his name, but we talked about it before on on our episode of art when we talked about our favorite artists before.
Hmm.
Oh, Marco, people are dead.
People are
People
dead.
are dead. These are so what we got here is we have what kind of style of art do you call that? It's not impressionism,
It is
right?
kind of impressionist a little bit. I mean, it's an impressionist use of color, I would say.
So
And well, technically, again, this is an AI image, so
right.
it's probably to some degree affected by the what we as humans define as impressionism, right? Because AI isn't yet defining things on its own; it's using our definitions to generate
Mm.
things. So,
So what we got here are one, two, three, four. We have five candles, right? And each candle has a flame, but one of them has a double flame. It has a flame, and then there's like another flame shape on top of that flame, right? And then surrounded by these flames are little swirls of color to of like they call it what is it, knife painting or something like that, where they took like their palette
yeah,
knife
yeah,
and they just smear the colors around and like do different things like that.
yeah. There's
And
no
these are
brush. They use
these
a.
are all circle shapes, right?
Hmm.
Um, and it's to illustrate the soft focus of the background and to show that there's light happening behind it. So that's the main image. But off to the side, there's like this line that divides it, and it starts to creep into another image that looks like there's a tree, like you're in some kind of like man-made park or something like that. And all you see is a tree, and it's the same thing with the swirling lights in different colors. Okay, so this image though does make me think of like a candlelight village vigil
Hmm.
where you're like in mourning of someone's death. So we got we got five dead and then we got a super dead as
Oh,
well.
super dead.
Yeah,
Someone who.
like
So, is that what you do for someone who becomes a zombie and then dies again?
yeah,
You
he's
light a
super
double
dead.
candle for them.
Yeah, right. What could you do? What could you do with this?
It's
Okay, so
rather
to almost
jovial.
well the candles are in like some kind of holder, right? But you don't really see them sitting on anything. So maybe they're like long poles, right? So these are like people holding poles with candles on top of them, and they're doing some kind of procession. Yeah, that's a hard one to make a story out of this. So
Yeah, that's why I really don't try to make a story out of everything. I just, especially like I said, when I used to do creative drawing or creative writing, I had a great teacher. His name was David Bliss. I hope he's still alive because he made a difference in my life. He's the reason, a big reason why I wanted to try to become a professional artist. And he used to say all the time, he's like, don't overthink it, just whatever comes to mind, that's what, put it down, see what happens, let your brain free, because you have a part of your mind that wants to constantly understand and, like, sort of like, like to take a transcript of what's going on. It's like, shut that part down and just let the painter part of your brain go free, and then just spit out what happens, say, write it down, or draw it, because the story sometimes will just emerge that way on its own. And sometimes describing things, I find, um, will help people listening or reading what you did or looking at what you did generate their own story. Which, to me, if there is a definition of art, that's what it is the story that takes place in the witness, not the author.
yeah, no, I think that the witness of art definitely holds more power than the artists themselves and the creation of meaning and uh meaning and what you feel out of it, because that's you're the viewer. Now the artist can be the viewer too, because of course you're going to view your own work. um but I don't think the artist has any power or sway over the audience. I think that's all like they're just
Well, that I don't agree with that.
well, I don't think that they matter. I don't think the artist matters, and when it comes to art I think it's
That's the
the,
ultimate, like, position to be in. Is like, if I could, when I could I've never done it, but if I could have sort of like the artist version of an ego death, like to create something and then not understand it at all and just look at it, and like you said, be a true witness of my own art. That's what I love about AI. Is it kind of gives that feeling. It's like, yeah, I prompted the artwork, but, or in this case, we'll call him Matt. Um, that's his name. Matt created this through, through artwork through the AI program he uses. But yeah, that the fact that to be in that position where it's just prompted and then you feel like you're in the audience. That's
Yeah.
like a awesome. That's like the ideal feeling. It's euphoric.
I don't when I create any kind of art, I don't feel like I'm just making it really for, I guess at this point, for myself, because I'm not really putting it out there, right? So I'm
Hmm.
just making it because I think it looks cool. Um, unless it's, I don't know, I guess you can call story writing art, and I do that. I do that for myself too. It's like it's mostly because I have something stuck in my head and I just want it out. It's like I just want this idea out of my head so I can think about something else, so I can stop thinking about this thing.
Huh. So it's more like it's medicinal. This
Yeah,
is a
no, it really
treatment.
is because
It's therapy.
I freaking hate repetitiveness and going over the same thing multiple times, or like listening to the same thing multiple times, or looking at the same thing over and over. I'm like, I don't just want I want something new. I want something fresh. That's like as in school, I love tests. I thought tests were the best thing in the world because it meant I got to go do something else.
Yeah.
It meant we got to move on. Like finally, we can stop learning about cells and we can learn about whatever else, you know. I hate cells. Cells are the worst thing in biology. It's annoying. Too many parts. It's too
Hmm.
much there. Too much happening to make.
Well, there's a lot of cells in the background of that image.
That's what they are. They're amoebas,
I don't know.
right? So they're just like dust particles eating each other.
Well, I think what's interesting too about that image is that the only thing that really makes sense is the candles, but then even then, as you stated, one of them isn't right, and then the bases of them aren't really that right either.
Right. Well, it almost looks like they're separated too. So there's like a group of three and then a group of two, and the group of two has the double flame with it. So maybe it's like some kind of like
Fucked up candelabra or something.
they're not just candelabra or candelabra, but like these are representations of people, right? And they're coming to these guys to like these are definitely like he's royalty, right? The one with the double flame, he's definitely the one in power of some sort.
Hmm.
And then these three are coming to them to like either fix a situation or they have a situation that needs to be resolved. Like these are the mediators of some sort. Like they're
Of the candle people,
yes. What would you call this piece? Maybe we could call it the
the candle people.
flame one and flame two.
That's an exciting name. Flame
You
one and
yelled at me
flame
for
two.
taking too long on the other
I
one.
did.
Well, you didn't yell. You just said, "Come on,
You
man, you're
just read
thinking
my
too
mind.
hard."
Oh yeah, no, I'm just trying to. I wasn't yelling. I was just trying to encourage you to, because I know there's thoughts you're skipping. Right. That's what silence is. It's thoughts you're ignoring or you're saving. So it's like, don't save those. Don't skip those. Just spit them out. Like that's why that was the example I was given about the elephant. It's like if the first thing that comes to your mind when you look at a sword is an elephant, then draw the elephant or say write the elephant down. And what is the elephant doing? Or like that kind of shit. Like it may seem weird, and your brain wants to sort of save you from sounding strange, but that's the joy of creative writing or creative drawing is to let that free, that's your safe space or whatever you want to call it.
Right. I mean, usually when like at that instance, I was whispering it though. I was saying it. I was just like flesh, golden flesh lips for flesh. I just kind of like make it into until something finally sticks and like sounds right. That's usually what it's kind of happening in my mind at least.
Just like so it's kind of like a mumble.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, does this make sense? No, that doesn't make sense. Move on. Next one. Okay, that makes sense a little bit. Okay, we can use that element. We like these two syllables together. Let's use that. All right, this sounds good. Then we
Yeah,
come up
that's what I'm saying. Like I think you should just say that aloud. Like why not? See what comes out.
because it's not coherent.
Oh,
They're like half formed words. They're like not real. You
so
know.
so you sound kind of like an auctioneer or something
Yeah,
in your
it's
brain.
yes, yeah. It's like well, it sounds more like a crazy person huddled in a corner, just like whispering
Dude,
things to
that's
themselves.
all our brains. We are all crazy people in corners
All right.
trying to understand the world.
So I got one. What do you think? One more for you then?
Well, let's do one. We'll round it out. Three, and three.
All right. So here's one for you then.
Okay, what do we got here? So, I like the colors a lot. We've got cause I'm a big fan of like blue and purple and teal, those kind of like misty colors.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got a woman again, and this is very painterly in style, meaning like there's a lot of stroke work and dripping in terms of how the paint was applied, if in fact it was actually painted. I mean, it looks at first glance it seems like it was actually painted, but as you look closer, these if these brushstrokes are real, like they're just all over the place. That must make no sense at all.
It's probably, digitally painted and they're just,
Well,
replicating that style.
sometimes I think that is an indication of an AI image, a computer generated image, because to create, to give you an example of what I mean, and I know you'll understand it, but I'll break it down simpler for anyone listening. When you use a pencil or a brush, even if you aren't trained, you create a rhythm, right? You have a certain direction that you repeat when you draw lines or when you fill in spaces, and you'll go in reverse or against or change that rhythm or direction. For the most part, it's going to be very similar, right? Because what doesn't change? The position of your arm, your hand, and the paper, right? You're always doing it from one side. It's not like you're constantly on a spinning table drawing on the
You don't
paper from
rotate your paper when you draw?
no, no, you do, but what I'm saying is that your directions are very similar, if not always similar.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the reason that is because makes it allows your brain to create something coherent, because that's what you're trying to do, is create an image that um, makes sense, even if it's abstract. That's regardless. Let's say you're drawing a portrait, which this is a portrait of a woman. So the reason why I explain that is because when you see an image like this that looks like the brushstrokes and the lines are done uh, with, let's say, within half an inch of distance of space, of square space with each other, are in within that half-inch square of space, are done from all different directions. That implies to me computer generated image, because to create coherent lines and images with that kind of brushwork or stroke work is too erratic for the human
Yeah,
brain,
right.
and to make coherent things from that would take a great degree of skill and, or I would say, genius level artist. So to make another example of what I'm talking about is, like, imagine if you had a box of sand and you dropped it on the ground, and within seconds you could form that sand into the portrait of like a recognizable character, say like Abraham Lincoln or something like that, right? If you were doing that as a normal human and only using your hands, let's say your fingers, you would start drawing and creating divots and, rises and lowers, or flow of the sand to create the lines.
Hmm.
But this isn't doing that. This is sort of like 100 hands, all fingers, all coming together at one time to create those lines.
Right.
So okay, that's a bit wordy of a definition, but that's why I think maybe this is AI generated itself. But the image is a woman covered in acrylic blues and purples and teals, and she looks like she's slowly exhaling like a big toke of something, but really it's the smoke is actually like a jellyfish. So she's either underwater or she's in a dream. And that's all that makes me think of. This is just like a nonsense or indescribable moment of a fantasy. It's kind of like, again, when I've tripped on really good shrooms, I'll just be going through the universe and seeing random shit. And when I say going through the universe, like I'm not like I'm that's what it really is happening in my mind. Like I'm flying through the universe, sometimes with my body, or sometimes in a vehicle of some sort. But this one actually doesn't really trigger my imagination very much. I feel like it actually kind of closes it down because it's doing so many imaginative things on its own. And while the background looks like definitely, I could imagine that being painted by a brush or something. But yeah, it's just a woman exhaling a jellyfish. It doesn't make me think of anything. It's kind of boring, actually, if I'm being
You
totally
think it's
honest.
boring?
I think it's a boring image, and that's not a slight to you in any way. But for me, this looks like
There's a lot happening. You think that's boring? What's boring? Just
well,
because it doesn't
see,
make you think?
well, you chose this image probably because it made you think,
Oh, it
right?
definitely made me
Okay,
think.
so for you, there's something going on here. There's a story, but for me, there's no story. There's nothing really to work with, in my opinion. I just feel like it's a moment frozen in time. It's just
So what's happening in that time? Just
well,
her settling.
it's indescribable. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing. Um, like I said, it's like when I'm tripping and I'm flying through the universe, I might and say I'm in a boat or a car, which sometimes I was. I'll look out the window to my left or my right, and I'll see something like this, and it doesn't have a story. It's like a stranger on a train. It doesn't. I don't know. I can't. I feel like I can't know anything about it. And it doesn't really make me think of much other than I really like the colors of it. And jellyfish, I would, if that's a real jellyfish, I would definitely not want it in my mouth. That's about it. Like I'm a little worried for this woman.
PSA: don't want jellyfish in my mouth. Just so you know, don't bring me a jellyfish. Don't have it in my mouth. Don't have it near my mouth.
You know what's interesting about some jellyfish? There's a kind of, I forget what it's called, but there's a jellyfish, and I think a lot of them actually have a similar cycle, but it's
Oh,
considered
the
immortal.
immortal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because it'll grow into an adult state,
yeah.
and then
Go
it'll
back to a juvenile.
reproduce, and then it'll that the crazy thing is that it reproduces, because reproduction is the reason why things aren't immortal, right? Because they
Mm.
make new versions of themselves, essentially. Like, I know as humans we think of the people we create as like a totally new person, and sometimes it's because of religion or spirituality, but really, from like, I feel like from a nature's point of view, we're not making new people. We're creating new versions of ourselves, because it's our
Mm.
genes that are being carried on, and they didn't change. They mutated and they mixed, but they're the ones that are being carried on. So really, it's a new version of yourself, which is kind of a weird way to look at it, but that's how my brain works. um and there's a jellyfish that grows to adult state, reproduces, and then reverts to a youthful state, and then just does that again. So unless it's eaten or killed somehow, it must be technically immortal.
Could you go? Could you imagine going through puberty multiple times through your life? Like that'd be annoying.
I think that'd be wonderful. You know why? Because I'm
That'd be
40 years
annoying.
old, and if I could have my libido of an 18-year-old like every couple of years, like say every 2 to 3 years, you know how fucking amazing that would be, dude? That'd be like imagine if birthdays were
It
actually
would
like
be
every
nice
2 or 3 years.
for
You'd be looking forward to that so hard. Like, no pun intended.
that testosterone boost. That'd be
Yeah,
nice.
dude.
I mean, just for working out's sake. You got natural
Yeah, who
GHG.
wouldn't want to be like, imagine if it was like a really good age too. Like, okay, not 18, let's say 21. Like, if you went from 21 to 40 back and forth, dude, that's like that makes me worried though, because like I think humans will one day invent immortality one way or another, whether it's uploading a mind or just allowing the body to live for hundreds of years or something. And that worries me a lot, because there are so many bad people in this world, and most of them run the world. And it's like, imagine if like someone, imagine, just without getting specific, imagine a politician that you really hate, okay, never dying and always having their position of power. That is just nightmarish to me.
Well, I think you'd have to create either it would become like mundane. We're all living like this, right? So it's like, okay, this is just how life is. Or you would have to create a new like term limit system, you know.
Term limits to life. You'd have to be killing people on purpose
Well,
just to
no,
make
not
sure
you
that,
just that's what I'm saying. You have to change it so it's not so you can't do this forever. Like you have to
well, we
retire
don't even
by
do that now. That's what worries me. We like definitely wouldn't do it if people were immortal.
no.
That's like the
I mean,
penultimate
there are
version of
there are term
tyranny.
limits. You can't be president more than twice and
That's
for
it, the
4 years.
president.
Well, there's
I can't
other
think of anything else other than like a mayor or
yeah
a governor.
yeah.
Everything else is until you die, which is kind of messed up.
I mean yeah
Judges,
yeah, but but you want
speakers.
right, but you want people who specialize in this field, right, to do it.
That's what you want, but I don't think that's what we get. What we get is crooks.
Right. I'm not saying it's working. I'm just saying what you want in a job is someone who's qualified and
Well, yeah,
who's
but I feel like you're taking. Are you taking a contrary position? Because that's what I'm saying. Is like, it would terrify me if we were, if humans became immortal, or the elites became immortal. That these people that are, I already consider corrupt, would just be there for hundreds of years. So the children of my children of my children, if I had children, would have to suffer under their deteriorating mind of tyranny. Because that's the other thing that scares me about immortality. It's like, okay, you live longer. That doesn't mean you become better, right? the mind still deteriorates. The data being collected still will overwhelm and create more insanity.
Well, yeah, but there's different ways to stave that off for longer times. There's like they say if you don't sleep enough, you can develop Alzheimer's that way. There's aluminum and stuff that contributes to. So there's different factors that you can eliminate to help like preserve your mind longer.
I think regardless, though, your mind deteriorates. Like, I mean,
Well, so does the rest of your body, though.
right? That's what I'm saying. But imagine
But
that just
there's
happened going on for
but
hundreds
if
of
you can
years.
find ways to stave off the deterioration of your body, you can stave off the deterioration of your mind. It's the same fucking thing.
No, you'd have to be removing memories then. But you'd have to be introducing ignorance into the mind again, because that's what creates that's what we juggle with our minds with dementia, is the amount of data that our mind records over time. All the terrible things that happen to us,
You're
all the
saying
trauma that we
dementia is
suffer.
caused from too many memories?
Yeah, it is.
No, it
It
isn't.
is.
They say the exact opposite.
It's caused there's
Because they say if you want to, one of the better ways to stave off like Alzheimer's at least is, which is like the same kind of family as dementia, um is to learn more things. The more you learn, the more you're keeping your brain active, the more it has to delete in aspect.
that's my point. You'd have to introduce severe dementia in order to save a brain and then resurrect it out of that state, because otherwise what's happening is this: you're collecting trauma over time. Trauma, 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 trauma. The longer you live, the more terrible things you're going to experience, and the more you're going to suffer from those things. And there's no way for us to know how we would be able to manage or continue to edit those things and deal with them, because already it's too much for the lives that we live, right? Even like an 80-year-old, like say an 80-year life. And talk to any old person, and you can even see it in their faces many times. Like, just the amount of things they've had to be through in life has drained them and isolated them in a lot of ways, or made them completely nuts. They say crazy shit. They think crazy things. They do crazy things, even without
Yeah, but I
Alzheimer's.
don't think trauma contributes to dementia though. I don't think that's like if you went through something bad, that's not going to make you like
Sure, it
go.
causes amnesia, it causes mental blocking, it causes
Yeah, but I
insanity.
don't think that's the main contributor to
No, I'm just
dementia.
saying that would be, imagine, instead of let's say, let's say a soldier who suffered severe PTSD,
Okay,
okay, for the 3 years that he was in a war, right?
right.
And let's say after that, um he just led a normal life, right? So
Okay,
you could argue that from age 20, and say he lived for 80 years, so that's 60 years of trauma, right? With some of the worst being his time at war.
okay.
Now imagine an 1,000-year-old life, like 1,000 years of life. Exactly. It's so monumental. It's almost like trying to count stars. Like, what would that do to the mind? Because you
Well,
could.
I don't think that the trauma is what's contributing to your
Oh,
deterioration
I
of your.
do, dude. Big time. I don't know. It's difficult for me to see your point of view on that, because
I
I
mean, we've
think,
all gone through bad things, but I don't feel crazy because of it.
just wait.
Just wait, okay.
Just you wait. You'll be smoking jellyfishes, man.
Dude, they're tasty, all right? They taste just like jam.
Have you had a jellyfish? Don't lie to
No,
me.
I have not. But I was making a joke. Instead of jelly, they
I
tasted like
wonder.
jam because
Hilarious.
they're jellyfish. It's not hilarious, but it's worth a chuckle, or at least
I'm
it's,
laughing. That's the kind of joke that makes me laugh at how at the lack of laughter that it would summon. So, like, once, like, if you've ever been to a comedy club and someone tells a joke and it's just dead silent for like 10 seconds, I'm the idiot that starts cackling because I'm like,
Yeah,
ah, you failed, dude.
that'd be me too.
I'm gonna call this jelly toke.
Jelly toke. I kind of like that.
This is jelly toke.
So
You got to
maybe
make sure you send me these images, by the
I
way.
will. I will. So this one makes you think of like people are starting to evolve into the ability to breathe underwater, right? So she's like um so the I guess it's almost more symbolism than the jellyfish is actually coming out of her mouth, or maybe she's spewing out water, right?
Maybe
Like
she's
this is
getting
her.
high by like sucking it in. She's like a fucked up mermaid with an
She takes,
addiction.
yeah, she gets the poison from the tentacles. She gets that sting.
Yeah.
um but these people are starting to become aquatic, right? So they're being able to breathes underwater, and maybe that's why the jellyfish is coming out of her mouth, because it's a magical means, right? So it's like the water is introduced from her, not from within her, right? And then it spews out, and then she can now become one with the water,
So was
and
she like
she
Gaia of
can,
the oceans?
not Gaia, not like as in like she becomes a water spirit, but like more of like a, she becomes like a sea elf or something like that, you know, like she becomes like a mermaid or something, but without the tail, right? She keeps her human form, but now she can breathe underwater. And it's not just her, it's like her whole peoples are becoming this way. And maybe it was a there's like some kind of cataclysm, like a volcano or something erupted, like Pompeii, right? And like her whole island is being demolished, and like her deity, the island's deity is like, I don't know what the fuck to do. Like, I'm not a fucking
You think I
volcanologist.
am
Like,
a god?
yeah, it's like I got power, but I'm limited, right? It's like I can't do everything. So she's like, fuck it, I'll just make you can breathe water now, people. Let's go. Start spewing out. Okay, you're good. Now go into the water. That's what it made me think of, kind of stuff like that. I can't
Yeah,
believe it sparked nothing in your
it
mind.
really
That's
is, dude.
crazy.
Like it's just so it's sort of like I don't know. That's just like one of those. It's hard for me to explain. Like it's just one of those images that it's just so contained in doing its own thing that like my mind isn't using it for anything. It's kind of weird.
Well, you say the same thing about when you take in any kind of media, like you don't expand on it at that much. You just you've said that before, that it limits your imagination when you're watching different things.
It does, yeah.
See, I
Sometimes
don't feel that way.
it
I feel
locks
like
it up.
it only increases my imagination.
Because for me, the way I can describe it maybe is that like with this image especially, like too much, even though it's a fantastical image, too much is being explained. So it's like my brain
When
isn't being asked to fill in the gaps
nothing's
anywhere.
explained. Why is a jellyfish coming out of her mouth? That's like the biggest question.
Yeah, but look how comfortable she is with doing it. She does it all the time. So it's natural for her.
Okay, so but why is it natural though?
I don't know.
So make up a reason. That's what that's what creativity's for.
I don't want to force it. I feel like I'll just be if I force it, then I'll just be stealing. I'll just be going into like some other a book or a show or a
You
movie
can't
or
force
TV.
your creativity.
No, I can't. I in fact,
Really?
yeah, just like you've heard of writer's block. I had the same thing with I have that with any form of art. So if I sit down and I'm like, even when I want what I know what I want to draw, at least like let's say I sit down, I want to draw a vampire. Like if I'm just pulling from my
Hmm.
imagination, if I don't, it may take minutes or even an hour before my hand starts moving. It's really weird. It doesn't happen all the time,
Right.
but it that can happen.
Wow.
And I find that yeah, it that's not great. Like it happens not just with art, but with other things. Like when I'm trying to
Mm,
teach myself new things. Like I love the guitar. Why the fuck don't I play the guitar? I love
yeah.
to sing. I love singing songs to guitars. Like that kind of stuff. But every time I've tried to teach myself the guitar, I just I run into that block. It like stops me from doing it because I feel like there's no imagination there. Whereas like when I teach myself to like practice singing or whatever, there's my imagination just explodes. So I just can't explain it. It's just the way I am, you
Hmm.
know.
No, I get that. I think that most people are like that. They can't summon creativity or the will to, or not the will, but the I don't know, the drive, the ability to sit still and do something.
Well, the nice thing, yeah, focus. The
Yeah.
nice thing is that that isn't most of the time. Most of the time, if I get an idea or something, I just sit down and I write it or I draw it and I produce something that I'm usually pretty happy with or even impressed by. So that's a good feeling, right? And that's most of the time. So I can't really complain. It's just I don't know. Mermaids smoking jellyfish. You do you, girlfriend. But yeah, it's just no, I don't know. Like, yeah, that's just a dead zone. That image is like, like you picked a really. It's good because you did that to me. It's cool that you found an image that did that to me. So I
That's
like it
so weird
for
though.
that reason
I
at
can't.
least.
I just that I don't know. It's good. I like the image. I thought it was.
I like it. Yeah,
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
mistake that. Like I
yeah,
do like it. Um, but yeah, this is kind of fun.
yeah. I liked it. I had fun. I have like three others, but Maybe another time.
Maybe another time, or we can get maybe we can get Zach to do us, some solos, and then
W-
he can just go as long, do as many images as he wants.
Yeah, that could be fun. Just start coming up with like quick stories real quick about
Yeah,
based
since you
off
like
of
to do it and you're good at it,
it's so
might
fun.
might as well
It's not my favorite thing.
make it like a like weird bedtime stories from Zach.
That'd be good. All right, Marco. Well, it was fun talking about stories, talking about our creative process and other things like that. Catch you later.
Bye.